If you're going to be successful in business, you launch a business and it's successful, you are going to run out of money. I am not a big goal setter. I've got a direction, but not a mission.
Tony Falkenstein is a powerhouse in the world of business and entrepreneurship. He's the CEO of NZX-listed Just Life Group, the company behind Just Water, one of New Zealand's leading water cooler businesses.
In 2003, he helped establish a business school at his old high school, Aonehunga High School.
He was inducted into the New Zealand Business Hall of Fame in 2008 and was made an officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit for his services to business.
I said, hey, what am I prepared to lose? And we bought 6 water coolers. And I said, hey, we'll lose $20,000. I'm prepared to lose $20,000. We'd go down with a truck down an industrial street, take in a water cooler, and say to the receptionist, oh, we're putting the water cooler here. We've got a customer survey on it, and we'll be back in a week.
You just dropped the product into someone's office and no one asked about it. And no one said, well, what are you doing here?
And we'd come back in a week and say, hey, well, look at the survey. 80% of the staff want to keep it, but we're about to take it out. She said, oh, no, you can't. All the staff love it.
But why water?
As a business model, I just saw a rental of an office product.
How did you make the company look big?
You look big by something.
Take me back to one of the biggest mistakes, or as it seemed, failures. How did that feel at the time?
Oh, just horrible. It just absolutely horrible.
Quick one. Mina here. Thank you for watching this episode. I appreciate you. Thank you for all your support. One thing that you can do for me is to please hit the subscribe button below. A lot of people who come and watch this podcast or listen to the podcast are not subscribers. And so we're trying to increase our subscriber base. We are wanting to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. I promise you that if you hit subscribe, I'm going to work hard to make sure that my episodes are really good, that will get better and better. So, do we have a deal? Okay, back to the episode. Tony, welcome to the podcast. It's such an honor to have you here.
Well, thank you, Mina. No, it's an honor to be here.
You exemplify, your career history exemplifies business excellence, innovation, education, building a community. And for people who don't know you, I have a number of things I wanted to let them know. You were inducted into the New Zealand Business Hall of Fame in 2008. In 2010, you were appointed as an office of the New Zealand Order of Merit and received a world-class New Zealand Award for New Thinking. Of course, many more distinctions and awards. Why? What's your mission?
Well, sometimes I wonder why too. But I suppose I challenge the status quo on things. And I'm definitely and proudly an opportunist. And I take opportunities. I took an opportunity to come here today.
You did. You could have said no.
I could have said no, but hey, it was something different, and I love different things.
What do you mean by opportunist? What does that mean?
Means so I am not a big goal setter. So you asked what my mission is. I haven't got a long mission out here. I've got a direction, but not a mission. And so I take opportunities as they come along. And so if I had a goal, it might be too narrow for me. And I want to go and wander off here a little bit, off the beaten track.
Mm. So you don't have any goals?
No.
Okay. That's fascinating.
And I've never had a goal. Things have just happened. But I'm highly positive, so good things happen.
Yeah.
And rarely bad things. And if they are bad things, they go out of my memory very, very quickly.
Well, that's a good thing to have. So what's your first great success that you've ever had?
Probably, if I went back, I was very, very shy, abnormally shy when I was a kid. And at school, for example, the headmaster could be at the front of the stage and said, someone was walking down the street with their cap backwards, and I'd immediately blush. So I'd blush very, very easily. And and so as a shy person, I never answered questions or anything. Now, the good thing about that, and that's the yin and the yang, is the good thing about being brought up like that was that is that I'm a very good listener. And so I could hear all these things, and in my brain, things were twirling around, and I was thinking, but I'm certainly, very much an introvert.
What is it about being an introvert, a good listener, has really helped you in your life?
Oh, it just means that a lot of people, they're thinking while someone else is talking what they're going to say next. I tend to listen. I'm much more in fact, I say to our senior staff, hey, do your thinking on paper, because it's too easy to think something and not really think through it.
Interesting. And so we've established that you don't have goals, but you have opportunities. You've absolutely fascinating how you have become such an amazing listener over the years.
I didn't really answer your question, which the question was, what was the question?
I don't remember.
I know I didn't answer it properly.
That's okay.
Anyway.
I can ask you this. In terms of your success, what has been your first great success in your life?
Right. Okay. So I really just went through the shyness. So I probably at the age of 23, I suddenly realized that I didn't think like other people. And it took me all that time. and so like I didn't have any talent. Like I had no musical talent. I had no sporting talent. I'd compete in things, but no real sporting talent. I wasn't that smart at school at all. Didn't pass exams. Didn't do anything that well, but I just cruised along. I wasn't a bad kid, but also wasn't, just cruised. And so at the age of 23, it's almost struck me. Why aren't other people? I keep on saying things. Why don't you do this? Whether it was a process or an idea or a marketing thing. Why don't you do this? And I think, I know, people aren't thinking like me. They're all saying, oh yeah, we should have thought of that. Oh yeah, why don't we do that? And so the big break was I was working for Polaroid, it's a US multinational, and what happened, I was probably about 25, and we got a phone call for a proposal for the trustee savings banks, and they used to be a cooperative, and they wanted to have a photo ID, and that's what we could do. And so when we came to the money, there wasn't enough money in their budget to do. And the reason why was these ID cameras, they had 27% duty and 60% sales tax on them. So they just, something that was, worth $100 had to retail at around about $500. So I went back to head office and said, listen, we can get this deal. It's a lot of units. They're going to burn a lot of film. Why don't we rent these things at $100 a month? And I picked that right out of the air. I like round numbers. And picked out of the air, why don't we do $100 a month? And because these guys they'll waste a lot of film, they'll burn a lot of film, and this will be a successful program. First time we've had a Visa photo card in New Zealand. So they agreed to that. And so we got the program, ran with the program. And then after a few months, they said, you know what, we're going to do this globally. We think that a rental program, even though they don't have the same problems that you have, we could put out a lot more of these things, and they definitely burn film, and that's where our big profit is. So they undertook that program. So I became a hero at Polaroid. So suddenly the shy little boy at 25 was suddenly a hero, and so then I got the position of, well, I had aging parents at that time. So my brother and sister both lived overseas, and they offered me the job of a marketing manager in Canada or a job in Europe looking after the sunglass area of Polaroid. And I decided I wanted to stay in New Zealand. So they shifted my general manager off to Canada and to give me something. And I became general manager of Polaroid New Zealand. So I was the youngest general manager of any Polaroid subsidiary. And then very soon after becoming the general manager, I sort of looked around and thought, I'd quite like being the boss. I think I'll stay the boss from now on.
Ah, okay.
And so I've been the boss ever since, whether it's been my company or someone else's company.
And that was success for you?
That was success, and that, hey, I did something that was quite amazing and became global.
Do you think starting in the corporate sector was the right thing to do for you at the start?
Again, it was an opportunity, and it worked out. And I really loved that company. I mean, and what it, I suppose, taught me, and probably in other companies, if you're doing everything right in a corporate, you can do your own thing. And so, I always say, if I had my way again, I never would have started my own business. Because I went on from, the only reason I left Polaroid was that I'd then done it. I'd been there, and then I went to another, and I know in my letter of resignation, I said that's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, is to resign because such a lovely company, and I went on to a small public company called Optical Holdings, and so I had really early success because with that company, when I went in, the share price was 38 cents, and when I left 3 years later, it was over $12. So I did things, and I look back there now and I think, how was I smart enough to do all those things? But it was a company that really was about to go under, and I didn't, if I'd known what I knew, I never would have taken the job. But in those days, the banks used to appoint their own manager for 3 months before they appointed a receiver. And in this case, the chairman said, hey, listen, we'll appoint a manager. And so I went into a company that really was in trouble, and turned it around. And obviously that reflected in the share price.
You mentioned something about, picking a number from thin air and having this idea to rent something as opposed to, I don't know, you innovated. Clearly there's this innovation in that story. How do you innovate?
Well, that's where I think I'm different from other people, is that I can go from here to there very, very quickly. In fact, one of our board members said to me, he said, Tony, you come up and out of the air, you say, hey, this, and he says, and I then work out and I get on my computer and I bloody play around and I come to the same result. And so I can get a good feel. I can see a set of numbers. I sure don't like that. What do you mean you don't like that? You've seen it for 10 seconds. I can, or things that are, people tend to complicate things and I can simplify them very quickly.
What's happening in your thinking, in your brain, in your decision making when you're doing that? It's simple, it's easy to say I simplify things, but what does that really mean?
I just think, I think people make things complex and I make them simple. But I love supermarket shopping, and I'm looking at things that, not intentionally, but they come and, that's a good idea. And so all these ideas are coming up. So the older I get, it's like loading a computer. The more you're loading your brain with all these experiences, that you pick that from here and put those together, etc. Other people can't do that as easily as I can.
So you're able to connect the dots and form a bigger picture with seemingly unrelated things, but in your brain it's going, that actually makes sense here and that makes sense here. So that concept and that strategy, I'm going to bring them together and it's gonna go really well. Yeah.
Or I see something which someone else might have done. I'm just copying someone else, copying the concept. So like when Xerox first started in photocopiers, you're probably too young to remember, but they rented the copier, and that's all they'd do. They wouldn't sell it. And when I first started, I rented fax machines and wouldn't sell. And the reason for that was that, that was the way I got different from the competition. All the competition were just selling. And I said, hey, we'll rent. And we will only rent. So all I was doing was copying exactly what Xerox did initially.
Your first million, it's always special. How did you make that? What's the story behind that?
So when I went into this Optical Holdings and the share price was 38 cents, I did a turnaround. And so in the first few months, you really do the major things of cutting costs and finding a new revenue source. And so probably after a year, the chairman said to me, listen, I'm going to keep on buying these shares now. You and I know this is going to be a $2 share. And he said, if you want to go in, that's fine, I'll stop and buy. And I'd bought initially when I came in, I'd bought some shares at 38 cents, I think about 20,000 of them. And so I told my mates, the chairman thinks it'll be $2. And I never bought any myself. So when the price was about $4 or $5, I said, Tony, this is a $6 or $7 or $8 stock. Why don't you buy some? And I said, I don't have the money. So he says, Tony, listen, I've now accumulated right from 38 cents all the way up to this $7, and you've had that opportunity too, and you haven't taken that opportunity. And so he said, listen, I've made an appointment for you to go into Westpac, go in, borrow $50,000. You and I know this is a $10 stock. And so that's what I did. So I went into Westpac, borrowed the money, and then sold out at just over $12. So I think that got me. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I've never sort of measured myself whether there was $1 million there. There probably was. And then in my house, I think, probably about that time we bought a house that was $600,000. Probably there was a big mortgage.
Where did you buy that? When did you buy your first home?
I'd bought one in for $37,000. Yeah, probably, I don't know, while I was at Polaroid. It was about 28.
Yeah.
And then bought one down the road when I got married, and then bought one up the road, and that's when we're still in. So we've been in the same one since 1987.
Wow. How long have you been in the same house?
About 40 years.
Wow. That's special. If you think about some of your biggest business deals, you would talk about how you've started so many businesses, right? Like you've made a lot of attempts to start winning businesses. Some of them obviously didn't go as planned. But for the ones that did work really well, what do you think made them go across the line? What has been the consistent principle or system or is it different every time? Every business deal has had its own character.
Yeah, listen, definition of entrepreneurship is idea plus execution. Now there are millions of ideas, but people can't execute, and so being able to see, and entrepreneurs can see the future. They can go from here to there and can see, hey, all the things that you need to do. And so if you go in, and this is quite disciplined, I suppose, it is quite disciplined, is that I look, hey, what things can I be different on a very, very old concept, the 4 Ps, on price, promotion, place, and...
One more thing.
Yeah, one more thing.
We'll come to you.
So product. Yeah, product, price, promotion, and place. So if I'm going to be different on my product, if I can be different on my pricing, on my promotion, and distribution, if I can do it on all 4 of them, there's a fair chance I'm going to get that one right. But if I can just even on 1 or 2 of them, I'm then looking out, hey, why, the question's always, why will the consumer buy this thing?
So if you think about some of the biggest business deals that you've worked on, which one that you perhaps haven't shared with anybody, you're obviously proud of, but been able to apply the 4 Ps and worked out really well?
Okay, so when I was at Optical Holdings, a lot of people think the success was that we launched Lispex and Latan and these various products into New Zealand. But the big success was this. When I arrived there was, and it was a sunglass manufacturing company. So a lot of the people had been there, their fathers, their parents had been worked there. It was a real, I wouldn't say cottage industry, but they could do short runs of optical frames or sunglass frames. And so they'd do 100 of a frame if they wanted. Anyway, when I went in there, you're looking at everything to, hey, here's a place going to go under. What are you going to do? And so in the warehouse, there was all this acetate, which they make glasses from, make the frames from. And I said, what's all that? Look at all that, bloody right up to the ceiling. Oh, that's stuff we bought in by mistake out of Italy. It's all very bright colours. And so I thought, I'd been in the UK before, and under National Health over there, they used to, I'm not sure it was free or very, very cheaply, you could buy National Health glasses and optical frames. And but they were all the same. They were all black and the same. And so you walked around London, everybody was wearing these black frames. I'm not saying everybody, but probably 70% of people that got them out of National Health. So they're all wearing the same frames. And I said, listen, I know a guy in Australia, which was a guy called Jonathan Skeets. He is a way out designer. I want to bring him over here, and I reckon he'll look at those colours and say, hey, we can do something. So I said to Jonathan, hey, I want to get a range of glasses using these that are way out. So he came back with this range of glasses that were way out. So it was a different product in a market that didn't have it. But and so then how are we going to as part of the product, how are we going to price these things? I said, hey, listen, what we're going to do, we're going to sell these things for £69, and it cost us around about $8 to make one of these frames. And not only that, we're not just going to do that, we're going to sell them in packs of 20. So it's a big order, but we're going to pack it with a little frame, and so they can have it sitting on their desk. So that was sort of the product and the pricing. So pricing was very high. Because we had pricing was very high, our promotion was we took one ad in Vogue magazine, which at that stage, doesn't sound much now, but it was £10,000. And this for a company that was absolutely struggling. I mean, the chairman almost fired me on the spot when he heard I'd pay £10,000 for an ad. I then went over with a sales guy from Christchurch. We went over to London. We arrived on the day of an exhibition. We'd had everything in a box. We just had all this, what we call wallpaper, all this bright coloured wallpaper, had these frames on display. And then we had this Vogue magazine all over the place. Anyway, that was good. People were interested. And then I had a sister-in-law in London who was a royal reporter, and so she used to follow Diana around. So she didn't have work all the time. So we'd give her this Vogue magazine, and she'd go around to a set course of optometrists and say, hey, listen, have you got these glasses? I'd say no. And within the next week or two, David or I would go in, say, hey, listen, we've got these new range of sunglasses and optical frames. Oh, everyone's been asking for that. And that was almost a general answer. And so we went right through the UK and sold these things in packs of 20, wouldn't go away from that. So our distribution was, we didn't hire it, we didn't have a wholesale or anything. We went straight out and had these packaged them nicely. So it was a big box. So everything was one product in effect, and distributed direct. and had a third-party warehouse there, and we just did all that ourselves to ship these out. But every order was, there was an enormous margin. So we did the whole of the UK that way.
How many pieces did you sell in the first year?
I can't remember, but it was a lot.
A lot.
It was a lot that it made enormous difference to the profit of Optical Holdings.
What was the revenue in that first year?
I think out of the UK it was around about £2 million.
And what year was this?
This goes back to 1983 or 4.
So 2 million was quite a lot.
Yeah. It was enormous. I mean, the chairman just couldn't believe it. We had these monthly reports, and it was, you know, we certainly were making mistakes on our accounting because we were trying to do this in the UK and we had no idea. We were sales guys.
What would you do differently if you had that same scenario today?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we'd probably, the problem if we'd gone to an accountant, it would have slowed us down. I mean, we could do, but we were doing manual invoices. We were gathering them up, totaling them, getting on an adding machine, and bloody, it was, here's our monthly sales for the month.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty slack.
Is there one thing that contributed to your success in terms of Just Water, which is a company that you've founded and you're leading at the moment, and you have had such success in New Zealand for it? For people who don't know what Just Water is, can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, Just Water is a water cooler rental company, actually. So really, if I just tell you the start why I went into that, I really saw, we had started renting fax machines, and they were the state of the art. That was before computers. They were the state of the art. And we rented, and the reason we rented was that we could put one in, salesperson could put one in and leave it. While if somebody was selling the machine or wanted to lease, they'd have to get prior approval, finance approval. So it meant two visits in a booming market. We could, if a lot did fall over in 1988, and we just put them back and gave them to another customer. So I really looked around looking all the time for another rental, some office product I could rent. And then I saw a water cooler on the Lucy Tyler show, an American sitcom. Thought, I reckon New Zealand's ready for that. And if I think back now, why I thought that, it was because so Arthur Lydiard was around. Probably some of your viewers wouldn't even remember him, but John Walker and Peter Snell were around, and people were really getting into jogging. So that had become...
For people who don't know who these people are, forgive my ignorance, who are they?
Right, so Peter Snell was the first miler, held the world mile record, won 2 gold medals, and he and Hellberg both won at the same time, and they were coached by this coach, Arthur Lydiard, who was really big into jogging. And so this jogging empire, people were talking about the heart pyramid, the food pyramid, and that was changing. And so I thought, hey, people want water. And I knew in offices, they always drank lolly waters. And there was a company called Sports Drinks that it was a franchise company. It delivered all these big boxes of coloured waters in there. And so I thought, hey, now's the time to go into water coolers. I'd learned again, just part of your learning, like computer, about rentals was a much better way to go than selling.
So if I may add, so you clearly had some concepts, like we were talking about earlier, that you had understood the principle of renting something, and then clearly you saw the market. You made a decision, because there would have been a strategy with that, in terms of knowing when to introduce a product into a market. You just said that New Zealand was ready. You did mention a few things as to why New Zealand would have been ready for the water cooler. Can you tell me again why did you think New Zealand was ready, and that if you had introduced it, it wouldn't have been a flop?
Well, I didn't know, because like anything that I do, I said, hey, what am I prepared to lose? I said, I'll launch this.
Okay.
And we bought 6 water coolers, And I said, hey, we'll lose $20,000. I'm prepared to lose $20,000.
Oh, okay.
And we put that on mainly on advertising. And, well, we ran the most horrible ad in the New Zealand Herald. Said all your staff are going to die, etc. Drinking this water, and showed water's little tadpoles in it, etc. But anyway, the 6 water coolers sold. And so very, very quickly, within a month, I said, hey, we're onto a winner here. Let's go.
Because you saw the response.
Yeah.
A bit of a testing phase.
Yeah.
You sold it or you rented it?
Rented it.
Okay.
And so we knew we were onto a winner. And, I thought, hey, now we are onto a winner. I had no interest in water. I was only interested in renting an office product that happened to bring water out of it.
And it's probably in every New Zealand clinic.
Yeah, the New Zealand office, in every New Zealand office now.
Many offices and clinics in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Like you would be able to find it. You go in and there's typically 2 taps and you push it and you get either cold water or pretty cool water.
Yeah, that's right. You understand.
And one of the first things that I remember, earliest memories about noticing the water coolers. And I thought, how smart is that for someone to have thought about having a water cooler and how useful it is it's so convenient because sometimes you haven't got your water bottle or you're so thirsty and where do you get water from? And so many moments in my life I thought, thank goodness there's a water cooler down there because I'm so thirsty and it's helped solve a problem.
Well, at the time people said, what? Nobody's ever going to buy water.
Really?
So the other thing that we did there was we said, hey, there's such it's established now that water in a bottle is good for you. We don't have to have spring water. So we just had filtered water. And I know, almost at the same time, a company in Australia, which is the biggest water cooler company in Australia called Never Fail, the owner of that, he said, I wish I'd started my business like you, because he's national in Australia, but always has to get trucks with spring water, bring them down. Oh, it's a much bigger problem.
Did you have to create the model and the machine model from scratch, or did you copy an idea and imported things into New Zealand at the time?
Yeah, no, we bought Lucy Tyler's water cooler.
Oh,
we bought them out of America.
So you actually bought theirs into New Zealand?
Yeah.
Did you make any changes to the product?
No.
As is?
As is.
What about licenses and royalties or things like that? Were they saying, we can't really buy ours and sell it in New Zealand?
No, there were 2 or 3 large water cooler companies in the States, manufacturers, and we bought off one of them.
You bought the manufacturers?
No, we bought water coolers out of these manufacturers.
Yeah.
So obviously in Europe, in America, they'd been around for longer time.
Is there one thing that has contributed to your success more than anything else?
The one thing is just being able to think differently from other people, and challenging what's there, challenging the status quo all the time.
What do people? How do people think? Do you think?
Yeah, they think they don't think. Yeah, they think about this here and can't see forward that easily. Can't see too far forward.
If someone listening to you and going, I think like that, and I want to get better, and I want to think like you, what advice would you have?
I think there are a lot of people that think like that but can't execute. So you have to learn what you've got to be able to do it. We just had a meeting with some of our staff in Wellington earlier this week. This guy came to me, had this great idea. He said, this is going to go fantastically. And I said to him, listen, it's all about execution. And how are you going to do it? Because it's going to cost you really have to say, hey, I'm prepared to lose $100,000 to do this. I said, I think it's a good idea, but you have to do, this is what I think you'd have to do. And then you have to look as though you're big. One of the things I really learned from Polaroid, the biggest thing I ever learned was always look bigger than you are. So they were very, very big on PR and totally. And that in fact is why we listed as a public company, was only to look look bigger than we are. And I think that's why, companies like Fonterra, they're never going to go to anyone else, because I think you can trust a public company more. They're not going to, there was a contaminant in the water, that even if it wasn't harmful, we'd immediately tell health department, immediately, stop production, etc. While a private company may, hey, there's nothing wrong with it, nobody will notice. They wouldn't. So people trust bigger companies. And even though we were small, companies like Fonterra trust us.
How did you look big? How did you make the company look big?
We look big. You look big by saying, hey, we're number one. You come out.
But before you even being number one, you say that you're number one.
Yeah. You just presume you're number. You assume, for their sake, that you are number one, and you look the part. So they see your advertising. Everything you do just looks. You get your website, just looks professional.
Obviously, the PR side of the marketing side, it seems like that you've got this winning streak with the businesses. Some of the business that you've done really well. How many businesses have you started in your life?
I think it was about 50.
What's the percentage of the winners that you had? Well, how many
about
winners
half.
did you have?
Probably about half.
That's a good percentage. Out of all the businesses that you started that worked really well, which one was you most proud of? Why were you most proud of that one?
Probably Optical Holdings. I mean, because it came from from almost nothing, from almost finished to a successful company. And the thing I'm sorry about is that we lost an industry. So they probably after I left, they didn't realise the value of this local being able to do short runs of these very sexy frames, and so therefore you didn't have to worry about our $8 to produce them was probably $2 in Asia, but you couldn't do the same thing. So you could do quite a unique range.
And I'm sure you've done a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
You've done lots of mistakes in your life. What would be the worst mistake you've made?
The worst mistake is, and if I do my lifeline, it goes like this, down to zero, and then from then on, I've made so many other mistakes, but then I think the big mistake is when you got everything on the line, right? When you got you're about to go under.
Yeah.
That's the biggest mistake. And
walk me through that. Like, take me back to one of the biggest mistakes, or as it seemed, failures. We know that, some people know that failures are not failures. They're just learning opportunities. But back in the day, perhaps you saw it as a biggest failure, and it was the end of the world.
Well, yeah. And I'll tell you the reason it was the end of the world was I'd come off a high of working in Optical Holdings Limited, and that share price had gone up. I believed in my own PR. It was the highest growth stock in the stock exchange for 2 years in a row, and so I say, that's when you're most valuable. So I went in. I'd had in New Zealand, had very successful products through pharmacy. They all loved me because everything I gave them worked, sold through, and they made good margins on. And so I then went out, set up my own business, which I tried to get the agency for Swatch, and somebody else had taken it in New Zealand. So I went to Hong Kong and got similar product and called it Z-Watch.
For people who don't know what that is, can you give me a bit of a background?
On Swatch. So Swatch was a very, very colourful watch, which was just very, very trendy at the time, had enormous success in Europe and
for like younger children or adults?
No, for adults.
Okay.
So just bright coloured watch with nice coloured plastic bands, while everything before had been very much, first of all, digital, and secondly, pretty boring. Had leather straps on, and that was the only thing there was. So what happened, I rang up the receptionist of the company that bought out Swatch and asked them when they were launching in New Zealand and how many models, how many colours, what their pricing was, who they were going to distribute through, etc. So the receptionist told me everything. Then went off to Hong Kong. I got more colours, more models. We decided their pricing was $69. We were $49. And you think, we're buying these watches for $3 US. And we decided unbeknown to them that we would launch the same day as they did. We both had, pretty, I suppose, lifestyle TV commercials. I'd got good distribution because pharmacies believed in me. So we got distribution right through pharmacy. The Z was a Z watch with a big Z with a red background, so the same colour as a Swiss flag. So it looked like a Swiss flag with a Z instead of a cross in it. And so the pharmacies put up big displays. And so the first month of business, we did $1 million worth of business the first month. We were 49, they were 69. So anyway, so between September when we launched and Christmas, we sold 27,000 watches and they sold 6,000. So it was an absolute success story. But the plasticizer in the strap had got brittle. And so when kids put them on Christmas Day, they broke. They all broke, just immediately. And so they all came back. And we had not just a 1 year guarantee that Swatch had, we had a 2 year guarantee. So these things just came back. I had a small little box at the post office, and every time it was just a yellow card in there and big bags of these watches came through. My supplier had disappeared, and so I had people, just phones going, letters, people complaining, and
how did that feel at the time?
Oh, just horrible. It was just absolutely horrible. And anyway, that went. Although it went on for 2 years, probably the first 6 months or so.
So how much you made? Like how much did you make selling those watches?
Oh, we spent everything we made. Sorry, because again, when you start, you put all your money into advertising. So all our margin had gone. We didn't expect to make anything, but in fact, then when they all came back, I either had to give their money back or try to fix them.
Did you try and fix them, or did you just return it to the supplier, or the supplier?
No, the supplier had gone. He'd gone in Hong Kong. They disappeared there. Wow. They disappeared, and so some of them. Then I found a guy who would put a new buckle on it, and that was and strap. And so a lot of them, but we had to pay for that. And
how did you fund that? If you had
I'd made money from Optical Holdings, and it all went. I decided not to put the company into receivership because, New Zealand's too small, and I could afford to do it, but I thought I could afford to do it, but then it just was a massive, these watches coming back and people complaining, so it was really tough. And but again, the opportunity comes up, and so suddenly this after about 3 months, I wasn't. I don't think I suffered depression, but I was depressed. Another phone call, pain, and
it's like reinforcing the failure almost.
Yeah. And then this guy rang me up who had been the audit partner at Optical Holdings. And he had no idea about Z-Watch. And he said, Tony, listen, I saw what you did. I'm now working for another company as the CFO, and I'm on the senior management team. And I saw what you did at Optical Holdings, turning around that company. We've just taken over a Christchurch company. It's got a turnover of 60 million. It's losing $3 million. And I reckon you could turn that around. And so I am done. And he said, and would give you $100,000 sign-on bonus. And so that didn't take me long before I accepted that. And that saved me. It saved our house. So we were looking to sell our house at that stage.
So that would have been a corporate job, was it? Like you had to go back to your salary job to pay for all these watches that you had to fix for other people?
Yeah, well, with that $100,000, that sort of got me right out of
Debt.
Yeah. And it meant I didn't have to sell my house. I still had a house then.
Yeah.
So I wasn't right to the wall. Now, since then, I've lost a lot more money, but it's...
What was the oversight mistake, do you think?
The mistake, simple, was when you're buying out of Asia, and you don't want to do the work, you find out, you say, hey, what American companies have bought off you, and you find someone who has supplied Walmart, or depending on what the product is, or Costco or something, because they will have made sure the quality is good. And so instead of $3, if I'd paid $3.50, I'd probably still be in the watch business today.
And you paid, how much you paid again?
I paid $3.
Yeah.
If I paid another 50 cents, I went around Hong Kong and I went for the cheapest.
Oh, okay. There was a cost to pay. So how much did that mistake set you back?
Well, everything I'd made at Optical Holdings, I still kept my house. That was the thing that...
How much in total did you lose?
Probably about 800,000.
Is that the biggest loss you've had?
No, sincere. But when you've got funds, you can afford, when you can afford to, it doesn't depress you as much.
But when you don't have, when there's not enough funds in there and
yeah,
you made
when
a
it's right
mistake,
on the
it's a
line,
disaster.
yeah, that's and probably worse still was I'd come off a high, and then go right down to the depths.
So what would you do differently if you go back with that deal? What would you do with the supplier and stuff like that? You clearly, because your marketing, your advertising is something that you've done well, but was it the supplier side of things that you would have gone back?
Yeah, I would have. I just would have said, "Hey, found a supplier," and I'd seen them that are supplying Walmart, and said, and they said, "Oh, Walmart's taken 5 million of these watches." Great.
So you didn't ask your supplier if they've supplied to Walmart?
I did. I did.
Okay.
I asked her. Yeah.
You did, and they said, "Yeah, we've supplied."
No, they didn't.
Oh, they didn't.
No, I'd asked. No, I went to about 6 different suppliers, and one of the guys said, "Oh yeah, we supply Walmart. It'll cost you $3.50 or $4." And I thought, "Oh, I know, I can get down the street for $3," and that was stupid.
Okay, lesson learned. Do you ever have imposter syndrome by any chance?
Yeah. You asked me about those awards. I had absolute imposter syndrome. Why me? There are all these smart bloody people around that should be getting these before me.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with such feelings of I don't deserve it? I don't know why people have picked me. How do you?
Oh, no, I just take it. I'm very happy to take it, but I do think, gee, can't believe that all these other people haven't got it.
It is. It's you do come across as such a humble personality, someone who obviously generous but quite humble in terms of all the accolades that you've had and all the success and the challenges and the success. Do you think humility played a role? Do you think being humble helps?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, it's you don't want to believe. Well, like I did believe that I was bloody infallible at the end of Optical Holdings era. Yeah. And I suppose I've learned that lesson.
Yeah. How do you carry that lesson on in today? In what you do today with your undertakings?
Well, just by being a listener, I think that's really important. And so I can pick people because you're a listener and because you've been brought up as not talking, you're watching people. So it's like a blind person, they've got much better feel than most of us. And so I've got a good feel of people. So I can walk around, I know if someone's unhappy. I'm going to ask them, hey, what's going on in your life? So I have a good feel of what's going on with people.
Kind of, has that sort of made you a better leader to some extent, like in terms of leadership?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean,
Bit of a-
I'm very big on the people thing and within the company, very big on the culture.
Yeah, there's this on your website. I went on your website. There's a CEO guarantee, and it has your name on it and your phone number, and people can call you if they're not happy.
Yeah.
I have never seen a CEO with his number. People can just reach out and chat.
Yeah. No, my email address and mobile phone number.
Do people call you?
Sure. I get about three a week.
And you haven't got a PA who says, sorry, Tony is busy.
No, I'll take it. So, so we have a guarantee that says, hey, we treat our, in fact, whether it's our staff or our customers or suppliers, as though they're part of our family. So we say, if you think that we've treated you unfairly, give me a ring and I'll put it right. And people feel good about it. They at a weekend, most of them, they tend to be texts. They're a bit nervous about ringing me. They tend to be texts, and I at least go back to them. So they're saying, yeah, I went to the boss, and I got him. They're going to do something on Monday, and all that. It's so easy.
Has that actually helped your group, life group?
Yes, what it does, it shows the staff, hey, that is how much value we put on customer service. Don't just leave a customer stranded. We have to find a solution. Now, sometimes the solution they don't like, but
yeah,
we have to front it.
What's the biggest mistake people make when entering business, do you think? And this is more of like a philosophy, strategy kind of part of this conversation. I want to understand your strategy and what mistakes people make when they enter business.
Well, one of them is they don't have enough money, don't have enough cash. And I always remember there was this quote from Peter Drucker which said, if you're going to be successful in business, or if when you launch a business and it's successful, you are going to run out of money. And it's true, the more successful you are, the quicker you run out of money. And I do remember back in, the water coolers really took off, and we were right to our bank limits until the bank said, we want our money back. And we said, what do you mean? We've been so successful. And they said, yeah, but look how much money you're going through. And yeah, it's so true. So running out of funds if you're successful. The other one is just not understanding the future. That you think, gee, great idea. People will want this, but they won't want it.
Yeah. And going back to the first point and running out of money or not having enough cash, what's your advice to not get into that hole?
Yeah, I think sometimes you have to think, hey, what are my resources? Can I do it? That's what I don't like about graduates come out and they want to borrow money immediately. It's almost as though their whole training is finding someone to fund me. And I think that is stupid. I mean, I think you're better off starting small and building up.
So what does that mean in terms of funding? So they shouldn't take money straight out of...
Yeah, because what happens, if their product's a success, they end up being an employee because they have all these people funding them, and then they own 10% of the company, and the guy said, you're no good as a CEO, get out. We like your company that you started, but you're out of here. Or do it our way.
How else should they strategize this so that they can keep their company, not be an employee, and do it the right way?
Well, they cannot be the big company immediately. You have to start off with your resources. If your resources are small, you have to start off small. You start off making meat pies in the kitchen, and that's what you do. But you don't immediately say, "Oh, you have to decide what the next stage is. You start making your meat pies in the kitchen, and they're successful. Say, hey, what should I do next? Is it am I better off spending the $20,000 I've got leasing a bakery, or can I go to someone else who's got a bakery, say, hey, I want to make these pies in your bakery, and paying a bit more until you've got enough that you say, hey, now I've got enough, I can buy that shop and have my own bakery. So it's stepping up all the time. Not and I say to the graduates, the less you can give away up front, the better.
Yeah. It's funny how we were talking about strategy just now, but before that we were talking about just water. Why water? I just want to know, what was your strategy behind picking water? And I know you were saying you saw it in America, you found that it was a great idea to bring to New Zealand. New Zealand would have been ready for that. But why water? What did you make? What was it about it that made you think, yep, this is good?
Well, as a business model, I just saw a rental of an office product. That's all I saw it. And I thought, hey, water, we were ready for it because people were more health conscious. And I was looking in offices, I was looking what the alternative product was, and there were all these cases of the sports drink in most offices. And then I suppose the strategy was how we got them into offices so I'm very, very, very big on guerrilla strategies, and guerrilla meaning a Guerilla, right? Not the grabber.
Not the big gorilla.
So our guerrilla strategy was we'd go down with a truck down a industrial street, and we'd go in, take in a water cooler, and say to the receptionist, "Oh, we're putting the water cooler here, and we've got a customer survey on it, and we'll be back in a week." She would have thought that it's been authorised by someone, and so we could go in a very small area and just do a street, and we'd come back in a week and say, "Hey, well, look at the survey. 80% of the staff want to keep it, but we're about to take it out." And she said, "Oh no, you can't. All the staff love it." And so, "Oh, well, who needs to sign off on it?" And then the manager had come out, and all the staff had said, "We want this sink, want to keep it," and so they'd stay there.
That is fascinating. You just dropped the product into someone's office and no one asked about it. And no one said, "Well, what are you doing here?" And you left it. What did you say? "This is for you. You've asked, we're going to pick it up in a week's time." Or did you not even tell them they're going to be picking it up in a week's time? No,
we said, "Listen, we're putting your water cooler here, and there's a survey on it for your staff to decide whether they want to keep it or not." Now, the receptionist probably thought, "Oh, someone's authorised that." And so he said, "Now make sure everyone fills in the survey."
See, most people would think, and I am probably one of them, I'll be too terrified to even do something like that. Because what if someone says, "Well, excuse me, what are you doing here? Like, did anyone, who's approved this and who said yes to this?" And, there's all these different questions that one would have about why you would not do it and what would be the stopping factor.
Well, a few of them did say, "Yeah, hey, listen, we don't want that in here."
Yeah.
Hey, "Oh, that's fine."
And do you just turn around and go, "Oh, yeah, fine"?
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, just we understood that everyone else in the street had actually taken these things, but if you don't want it, it's fine. And often they'd come back, "Oh, well, we'll try it too."
So is this what you call guerrilla marketing?
Yeah.
So do you think that still works today? Do you think if someone does that
today? That was guerrilla marketing going into the UK with the Vogue magazine.
Yeah.
That was guerrilla marketing too.
Yeah. So like a bit of a, not forced marketing, but I don't know. It's an interesting concept that worked for you, right?
Yeah. And so once you got that initial base of customers, then people were on the phone and asking for it. People, because it was new, and so people were talking about it. "I've got a water cooler in our office." "Well, have you?"
It's so fascinating. Which area in your business right now do you see a boom?
The big boom is in home water coolers and supplements. So both those areas. I tell you what happened with the home water coolers, and I remember when we first broached it with the board, they said, "Who is going to have a water cooler in their home?" Well, a lot of people, particularly in low and mid socioeconomic areas, they're very conscious of their kids drinking Coca-Cola and what have you, and they do want a water cooler in their home. And so, the function is more important than the form. So, but we went in there and had a team of sales reps around the country, and they put these things everywhere in homes. But unfortunately, we didn't do credit checks at that stage. And so they went, so the easiest one, they went to some very, low socioeconomic areas. And so we had a lot of noise and credit control and people disappearing and all that. So...
do you just drop the machine in someone's home and say, like the
No,
gorilla
they were
the
asking.
people actually ask?
Yeah, they were asking for it.
Yeah.
And so we stopped that, and we said, well, we'll take anyone who rings up, but we'll do a credit check. And so we're getting people ringing up still, and so we're putting these things out. And so only about a couple of years ago, all the noise had died down in credit control, all the ones, we had a lot back, probably about 5,000 of them back. And a lot of credit control callers going missing, all sorts of noise. And a couple of years ago, we said, look at it, everything, the noise is closed, stopped down. We've still got thousands of these things out there. And so we looked and we found that the average caller was out there for 6.2 years, paying $30 a month, $1 a day. And we said, well, hey, this is a good business. So now last year we actually, we went on TV with it and just boomed. So a market that had been, the home callers been declining as we got rid of the bad ones, but once we were on TV and did credit checks, so 50% of people fail the credit checks, but the ones that don't fail it, they'll last over 6 years. So that's a good good business. So that's got big growth. And once you find something that works, you put $1 in and you can make $2 or $5, whatever you want, you just keep on spending that dollar. So we spent, I think, 100,000 last year. We'll probably spend 200,000 this year just on this home delivery. So that
not marketing.
Well, on TV advertising mainly. Well, a lot of everything actually.
So if you would break down the strategy on how you worked on to make this more of a success, what would be the steps to make that happen?
Like now? Well, now that we know that first of all, we know that it's very, very hard for someone else to get into, because you want your truck to be driving. If you try to start today, you'd go from here to here to here to deliver water, and that becomes uneconomic. We've now got enough water coolers out there that we just keep on targeting our advertising to the areas where they are, and they see that truck going down every week. It's like a billboard plus targeted advertising to them, and so we can start filling the street with water coolers for their homes.
That's how you scale it. Yeah.
And spending the money now because we know, hey, each one's going to last six years.
And you had to make it less noisy. Was the water cooler a little bit noisy? That was the issue with it before.
Sorry, noise in terms of the back office.
Oh, okay.
In terms of just the credit control and water coolers disappearing, etc.
Gotcha. Different type of noise.
Yeah.
So this is great. I do want to touch on a few other bits and pieces. Company culture. How do you ensure that they have a culture of success in your company?
Well, when we monitor it, it's the bigger you get, the harder it is. But I think, we do.
How do you?
We try. Well, we say we make it very, very clear. So we have a very, very flat hierarchy. Every person who joins the company goes through an induction period, and I see every person, right? And most people say, "Well, I've never met the chief executive before," but it's important. We go through our values, and
why is it important to meet the chief executive?
Why do I think it's important? Yeah, I think it's important just that they know that hey, listen, he's not the big god up there. We want to bring their experience from other companies into our company. So we say, listen, the first month you'll be able to see things that we've never seen before. So we're looking for you to come up with different things or different ideas or things that you might have used in your past companies, you might think might be smarter to be used here.
A lot of that strategy happen in other companies, and you sometimes I'm not saying it doesn't happen to you, but other leaders might do that, and they would ask these questions about how do you improve and stuff like that, and then nothing happens. Like, how do you ensure that what the employee is suggesting actually gets carried out and happens?
So one of the things I tell them is we dislike energy zappers, right? So energy zappers just zap everybody. So we want you to feel comfortable enough that you can talk to your leader or come to senior management team or come to me, if you like. Nobody under you, nobody who might be over you is going to feel threatened by the fact that you're coming to me, because that's how flat our hierarchy is.
Yeah.
So if you think I'm the person to talk to, hey, come and talk to me. Now, often, so we'll front anything. If you think you're unhappy about something or something that we should do, but probably feel unhappy about it, we want you to front it rather than talk to someone else. We'll tell you. We'll be right up front on why we've done something or why we can't tell you why we've done something. And part of it being a public company, sometimes we can't tell you. But we'll tell you that. So it's no use, don't go and talk to someone else, it's not fair. Much better if you come to us. So I actually say to them, some people won't like this environment. And we try and get people who do, but our environment is that you feel part of the company. And if we want you to, you're hired on credit control, hey, listen, we've got a real urgent container, it has to be unpacked today. We need some help down there, that you feel comfortable doing that. While probably in a different culture, which may be a fine culture, like, maybe government departments, you're very much into this is your job and you do nothing else. Now, that doesn't suit us. And so we want the people who are prepared to do anything, who want to be part of this company. We want to be part of our family.
So you probably have had moments where you needed some inspiration yourself and needed to understand more about culture and about running something and making a decision. So who do you surround yourself with and get good advice to develop?
Yeah, probably those things. I mean, I'm an entrepreneurs organisation and a young presidents organisation. Well, no, they just call it YPO now, not young. But generally, and I suppose before, when I first worked for somebody else, I thought, gee, I kept on seeing things. I thought, gee, if I ever ran my own company, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
I always remember I worked for this company, New Zealand Sugar Company, and back in the days we used to send out all the statements, and so there was this receptionist sitting at reception doing her nails or something, looking at her nails, and I said, hey, listen, can you do all these invoices? No, it's not my job.
Oh, yes. I hear that so... I have...
And I thought, if I ever own a company, I'll tell you what, that will never happen. That statement will never happen.
How do you make sure that never happens?
Just by providing a culture that they don't feel as though they feel comfortable, that we can say to them, hey, listen,
Could you do that?
give us a help over here.
I can't tell you
And
how...
it's hard.
I can't tell you how often I've heard that term.
Yeah, horrible term.
I don't like it too. Yeah. It almost like it's such a limiter, because you're limiting your own growth and limiting your own vision into what you could become in that business or company. And yeah, I want to know a few things from you in terms of your personal growth and habits. You've wrote a book called The ABC in Business. Never hire a person who walks slowly. Why would you say that?
Well, listen, that doesn't hold true 100%, but we want people who are just active. So on a hiring, for example, I mean, we always ask a receptionist, hey, how'd that person, if they slouch in and just come in and sit at the reception, and it's very important. Often in executive positions, how they treat the receptionist is important. So
it's like the energy.
What's that?
The energy.
Yeah, it's just energy, high energy.
Yeah.
Some people do walk slowly, and I'm not. I
Against people
because
more slowly.
they're more thinkers. But
Yeah.
I walk quickly.
You walk quickly? Yeah. Do you walk quickly and think slowly? Or speak slowly rather. Think fast and speak slow.
So I'll tell you a little secret. So, not a secret, but I'm a very good sleeper, and I don't worry. I don't stress about anything. One, because I front anything immediately that might be stressful, but also if there's something that's been on my mind, I know I'm so confident about my subconscious solving all my problems that in the morning they're all neatly there. And so I'm very, very conscious about that. Very, very, very confident about it. So so one of the things I asked there about, I think it might be under ideas or something, is how do you have the big idea? And sometimes if I speak, I say, hey, listen, when have you ever had a big idea when you've been sitting on the toilet or in the bathroom, in the shower? And everyone puts up their hand. I say, well, hey, listen, I can tell you a way. If you're say 15 minutes in that shower and you have one good idea, I can tell you if in an hour and a half you'll have 6 times that. So, and you don't have to sit in the toilet the whole time. And that is going out for a walk with no cell phone and no dog and no partner or anything. Just go for a walk, and you will be. And the same thing as when you're sleeping, your subconscious is just working, coming through, and coming up with all the answers.
So you're quite passionate about educating people, education. Why is that?
Well, in the year 2000, I went with my wife and daughter to the UK, and for a sabbatical for one year, and while we were there, this report came out, the GEM report, which is Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, and that said that New Zealanders, of the 28 countries, New Zealanders were number 1 at starting up companies, and number 28 on companies lasting longer than 5 years. And about the time I was there, or about the time I was reading all that, the principal of Onehunga High School came over on a Wolf Fisher scholarship, and he stayed in our flat overnight, and over a bottle of wine, I said, listen, the kids today are not coming out with any business knowledge, and they need to. And he was a bit of an old geography teacher. He wasn't that keen on it. He said, Tony, come back. When you come back next year, come and see me and we'll talk about it. So anyway, I went back next year when the board got and said, let's start up a business high school. So there are 2 ways to get business in the curriculum, and one is to lobby. I said, that is such a pain in the backside, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. We'll start it and we'll show, hey, this is worth doing. So the board then approved that, and I was able to get a grant from Trade and Enterprise, as they called something else then, but of $400,000. And so we got approved in June. By February we started. We had a building, the whole thing built, ready to go, and students, and so over the period, the students, nobody wanted to come to the school. Locals came to the school, but once we had the business school, everyone from outside the area wanted to come. They had a waiting list of people wanting to come to that school, and it really. So I'm not an educationalist, so I'm a marketer, and so I was thinking, what do kids like? Kids like watching bloody screens and things on rockets and etc. So we'll get some computer games that they can play on about business. We did that I said this learning, I didn't know the word, but I now know what it is, but was experiential learning. I said, listen, if they learn pricing on the Monday, I want them to, on the Wednesday, develop, say, 50 questions, and on the Friday, they go, each 2 students would have one business in the local community that they would go and see and talk about pricing. So by doing the 50 questions, it reinforced the theory of it. And then by going, it might have been a little bakery or could have been a big manufacturing plant, but they'd come back so excited because they say, all that stuff you're told about cost plus and all that, if it's at Easter, they put a little cross on there and they sell the bun for 5 times the price, whatever it might be. So again, it was an opportunity because of that GEM report, because of the coincidence that the principal was there, and all that sort of revolved, and I became really quite passionate about that business education is the key to economic prosperity. So every year we took 15 kids over to New York or Silicon Valley and went to corporate lawyers, banks, such and things like that. And so and then since then I've set up a program called the Vanguard program. We take about 18 to 20 students every year up to Silicon Valley, and that's same thing, but they're more mature students. Most of them are in startups. And so I really enjoy that, and I really think that, hey, in a limited way, I'm helping people.
It's quite a beautiful philanthropic work that you do in terms of giving back to the community and helping train the new leaders.
Yeah, it is, but I get the most out of it. I mean, I'm a lifelong learner. Like, I can't go to Amazon or to Microsoft and say, "Hey, I want to go and see through your building," but see your people and talk to your people. But with 18 students, I can.
Is that a nice new way of getting into the building? What have you found in the latest trip that you've been on?
Well, we were in San Francisco. They just introduced the Waymo cars, and so driverless cars. So we were right into those. Drove them all around San Francisco. That was good. Silicon Valley is just, and I'm not an IT guy, but it is magic in terms of just collaboration. You see you come away buzzing from that. So it's really, really interesting. And then seeing some of the what New Zealanders are doing over there, startups, and some have been very, very successful.
Anything that pops to mind?
We saw Tim Brown of that makes the shoes with the wool. So it was an absolute success story. About 3 years ago, it did an IPO on the NASDAQ and was worth $1.5 billion. But it's gone through from there. It's just gone. That Allbirds brand.
Oh, okay.
So that was interesting to see, again, for kids to see, hey, listen, you have a success, be careful. Tony's told you the same. Be careful if you're successful. Next step could be downwards.
I have so many more questions to ask you. However, I do envision another episode. I hope you come back to the episode because there's plenty of conversations that I'd love to unpack. But for today, Tony, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been enriching and entertaining and inspiring to listen to your journey and your stories and your ups and downs.
Okay, well, thank you, Mina. That's been a pleasure.
Thank you. One final question is, what's your best advice you've ever been given?
Probably my father, when I was so shy, to do the things you don't want to do. So if you don't feel, do a podcast if you don't feel that comfortable doing it, or go up on stage, and I will take every speaking opportunity I ever get.
Right.
And I still don't like it. I'm not the best at it, but I do it. And I don't have any fear of doing it either.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing.